The great Upanishads are in the form of a dialogue, and Charak Samhita is in the form of dialogue. Ayurveda, Charak Samhita is in the form of a dialogue. Okay. So the student poses questions to Atreya, Atreya answers, and Charak, who is the student of Atreya, records it. And Charak doesn't say, I have written it. Charak says, so speaks my teacher. It's really beautiful. So the answers come from Rishi Atreya. And Tataji was telling me today that in Greece, you know how Ayurveda traveled, he'll give you the exact word, but he was saying doctor is called Atri or something from Atreya. He will tell you today. So it's really amazing how this teacher-student tradition is at the root of the work. And then based upon the questions asked, the work proceeds. So I open the floor to you for the next 20 minutes, and then we will conclude at 7. All of you are welcome to ask or talk about Vivekachudamani, and especially around what are you understanding when we say that what are your qualifications to be a student of this great knowledge? How can you bring them into your life? What are your actions if you are circling them but not being able to embody them? And then I will say, that's okay, but at least circle, keep circling. So I leave the floor to you.
One question I've had is when we talk about the kind of, there's the net around you, and then the net can be very small or it can be very big, and we're constantly trying to break free of the net. So if you try to
Phrase the question, yes.
if one is starting to break free of the net, like maybe there's relationships that were really small that are falling away and they're not, you want to see more of that your inner power, your inner joy, things that aren't from the past that aren't necessarily making you happy, and you see the things that do make you happy, or the relationships around you that are changing. How do you know if you're changing it and people around you are feeling angry because you are maybe setting boundaries or standing up for yourself? How do you know you're not just blazing a trail of angry victims, or if you're creating a new path and that's part of what's happening because you are setting a new net for yourself?
Okay.
Bigger net. I don't know if that makes sense.
Lighter net.
Lighter net.
The 3 kinds of nets. Tamas net, Rajas net, and Sattva is a net too. Ultimately, even this body is a net. The mind is a net, right? Intellect is a net. We can go to lofty heights, but we're there. Ultimately, only that place which we can't even cognize, but we all know it somewhere to be true. In the pure self is a non-net place. But it definitely we can move the net around to make it less tamasic heavy, rajasic turbulent, dramatic, compulsive, more sattvic, lighter, with ease and breathing room, right? So that's one thing. So one is changing the quality of the net, one is not necessarily removing it. Do you agree? Okay. Now, how do we know if we are blazing a trail of anger and ego, or are we this is just merely the side consequence of changing our net, because people were used to having us a tamas net and crawling in with it, us underneath it. it all depends, the answer will be given to you by you, not by anyone outside, because you can pretend. The deepest place inside would be, what's your intention? When you said no to someone who invites you to go drinking with you, to go drinking with them, for example, and there's no intrinsic, morality around drinking. Even Charak talks about wine being the best antidepressant and really good for the hridaya. So, you cannot find a more inclusive science than Charak, So we're not talking, morality here. We're just talking about, okay, when you go drinking to that very far bar and then you go bar hopping, the energy and the mood and the conversations are not supportive to your Sandhya Vandam the next morning. And you're also finding a little bit bored of the same conversations. But your deepest intention is not to judge them or hurt them or make them small. You're just like a bird who wants to now sit on a different flower and take its honey. And there is no harm in it. So if your deepest intention is ultimately to be a better person, you may fail in the process. Some people may get upset with your process. So if you fail in the process, you work harder. But if some people are hurt in the process, you can try to soothe them. But beyond a point, there'll be some resistance to changing. So we have to keep looking at what is our intention. If our intention is nothing but good, there won't be that much resistance outside. So somewhere when people are criticizing us, we are also judging them. So our work is not to judge, but accept the world and its three types of nets. And I have to know that living within these people, that's the thing on earth. You can't really just, like you can come to Vedika, and guess what? Again, ego is here. But it is more sattvic, let's just say. Even the most tamasic person is trying their best to be sattvic. Do you agree in Vedika? There is this inner desire to evolve. Do you see that? Everybody, I know my every student is trying. I'm trying. Everybody is trying. All the teachers are trying. So it's a beautiful community. So it's a little easier here. But we can take this, but we can't guarantee that it will always be like that outside. Here we give you a test drive. There we give you some support to at least not judge and be angry. And there'll be times when you find yourself bar hopping against your wishes, but if you go deepest intention, you did it for your husband or your friend. And so you say, okay, let this presence of mine be a gift to that person. And let me not just get so mad at me, them, the world, and let me send a divorce decree the next day, or a letter of, I can no longer be your friend because I'm on the spiritual path. Let's not do that. Let's just say that the next time socialization is on me, and let me introduce you to the khichdi and takra, let me give you a new joy. And then you step into your light and you show them another way of being with you, and they'll say, Tracy, you've really changed. And at that time you don't get apologetic and you say, since I found that weird Indian person. Yeah. But then she just exposed me to the weirdness inside me. That's it. And what's called weird is just a little bit free. Yeah? Have I answered your question? Okay. So there will always be some discomfort. There will always be. There is always... But I would rather we go for this discomfort than not want to squeak or change anything. Because that's very heavy tamasic. And it's better to have some turbulence inside and outside, drop a few times, fail a few times, but ultimately, like a mountain goat, you want to keep ascending the paths of consciousness. Say Gayatri, start again.
I like that idea of thinking of it that the net is there, but there's different qualities of the net.
That is why you are learning discrimination. The body is a net. Everything is a net. You know, five layers of net right here. And then the self. So it's the dot. Om, 3 states of cycling, dot, separate. Good question. Keep trying.
What does it look like to be fully enlightened?
The Upanishads are full of descriptions on what does it look like to be, what does it feel like more than look. I don't think there's a lot of physical description on what does it feel like. But there is a lot of understanding of what is Atman and what is Anatman, what is non-self. Non-self is perishable, Atman is eternal. Non-self is changeable, Atman is, fixed. Non-self feels cyclical and terrified easily. Self is steadfast. So I can tell you that you can know it yourself. You don't even have to take my word or the Upanishad's word for it, because this is an experiential knowledge. But when you have been full of doubts or confusions, or you have hit the ignorance button inside yourself, and got like really dark and funneled up inside you, and then someone came and explained things to you, or you were sleeping in a camp, in a tent, and there was a tree that was whispering and something was moving, and all night you slept terrified. Next morning you got up and it was nothing but a tree branch. And then the relief and the laughter and the joy and the amusement and the expansiveness that comes. So enlightenment is what? It's nothing, it's just knowledge. And this knowledge is increasing unitarily level, and then it happens at an exponential level. But this is not ordinary knowledge. Knowledge of mathematics can release us in the mathematical level. Knowledge of engineering and car mechanics can help us if our car breaks down. But knowledge of the self, Atman, and non-self, Anatman, and that discrimination, which we are learning in the satsang, which is at the root of suffering and joy. Okay, this knowledge helps us be passengers in human body. There is no other knowledge. The knowledge of Om, the knowledge of Gayatri, which is a bridge from Jiva to Atman, from adaptive self to original self. Do you see that? So this enlightenment, we should remove these images of people sitting in a lotus position and then experiencing it. Enlightenment is our original nature. We have just bought into the net that is called Maya, the great misapprehension that occurs. And that is why, because knowledge is our true nature, because our true nature is Amrit, or nectar of the self, because we are the divine Atman Brahman, that is why when you take anybody, even a criminal, wants to kill and hurt, and if that person is given enough love, enough guidance, enough discipline, enough support, after a while that person becomes like God. Do you agree? Where did that God come from? That God came forth from its own self after the layers were removed. That is why Vedanta says we don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to become anything. We don't have to add anything to decorate ourselves. In fact, we just have to observe, this is not myself, this is not myself, and then what remains is the true self. So enlightenment looks like ordinary person, but enlightenment is experienced as Satta Chit Ananda, which is knowledge and experience of eternal existence, complete intelligence, no more questions, and Ananda. Ananda, the difference between Ananda and Sukha is Sukha or temporary worldly joy comes and goes, but Ananda is eternal. So a much more quantum state of being and experience. And perhaps many of you are experiencing much more enlightenment than earlier. Can I see hands? Mine too. So when we are peaceful with all, we are in the state of enlightenment. When we've got caught up, when the body catches us, when the mind catches us, when the intellect takes us over, we have gone away from that. The permanent state of that enlightenment is called moksha. Right now we have bits of it, right? Those bits are important. Do you know? I have met people who for 30 years have had no experience of peace, right? Constant, either suffering from outside or internal, right? Then they experience 5 minutes of peace. It's nothing less than enlightenment. Then the goal can be extended to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 24 hours, a whole lifetime. So Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It is the beginning, and Shanti in the body realm, Shanti in the mind realm, Shanti in the soul realm. Shanti in the earth, Shanti in the bhu, Shanti in the bhuva, Shanti in the swaha. Peace. And that perhaps is what enlightenment is like. Perhaps, let us guess, that an enlightened person is quite peaceful. They are laughing peacefully. They are crying peacefully. Think about it. Shanti. Have I been able to give you some ideas? So when your Shanti is robbed by the world outside or the world inside, made up by the mind, then you have to remember to then know that that's not your reality, because that's the beauty of Vedanta. It says you are basically enlightened, but a misapprehension has you are light. Jyotirham vipapma bhuyasam. I am made up of light only. I don't have to switch on a light. I am light. And that is why Charak says nothing, just wipe the lamp and the light will show better. Have you seen a lamp with a lot of soot? Have you seen those old lamps, old world lamps? There's a lot of soot. So even though you are burning this oil, there's very little light in the room. That's how we are. That soot is nothing but rajas and tamas. Then the knowledge wipes that. What happens? Immediately there is more light. And the state of unalloyed light, prakash, shakti, that is enlightenment. So we didn't do anything miraculous. We just cleaned up the mess. Then we go to the bar, have a couple of drinks, and we're enlightened. And we write a book, The Zen Way of Going to the Bar. I look forward to one of you writing it. Don't leave the bar. Just change your relationship with the bar. Right? The externalized yogi stops going to the bar. But the internalized yogi is addicted with the nectar of the self. So he or she can enjoy the drink, but not have an addiction. Yeah? Will enjoy the world and live in the world, but not be of the world. That is what Swami Vivekananda has written beautifully. He has said that you are visiting. Don't get all attached here, and travel light. Don't accumulate too much. Light in relationships, be light on your material things. So I will close now. And thank you so much. We will continue next Thursday onwards with our Vivekachudamani. We are still on Shlok 17 and we will continue its exploration for at least 2 times more. It's a Shlok on the Shat Sampati, the 6 virtues. So, the qualifications of Shat Sampati is a part of it for the student. So we will continue talking about